Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here with episode 549 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, for Sunday, February 9th, 2020. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcasts Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, AMD's coming to a PC near you. Clearview AI is spying on your face. And ViacomCBS wants to compete with itself. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, on any of our live stream platforms, livestream.com, Mixer, Twitch, Periscope, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, on any of the podcatchers, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, or the myriad of others. Or, of course, on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are a couple of ways you can do that. The first is Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to f5live.tv/join us and chat with us in the studio and give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. We always love to hear what you have to say. If you can't join us live, that is okay. You can always go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. And there you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, The Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and more. And you can find all of the ways that you can subscribe. I think that's that, Avram. It's good to be back.
Yay. Yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to be back doing the show. So, it's things are starting to rev up a little bit with new stuff happening in the industry. Although, of course, we all know that there's some uncertainty going around because of the coronavirus. So,
yeah, I saw a whole bunch of companies aren't going to
topics.
No, I saw a lot of companies aren't going to Mobile World Congress.
Yes, so it gives me some pause about. Well, it makes me very concerned about my favorite and the most important show of the year for me and for Tom's Hardware, which is Computex, which takes place in Taiwan this year, first week of June. Obviously, if people are afraid of spreading germs in Barcelona,
right,
because there's some companies coming from and visitors potentially coming from China, but really, I mean, you could make the argument that since the disease has gone global now, couldn't anybody have it?
Yeah.
In that case, should we not congregate anywhere? But if there's a bunch of companies that have bailed out or sort of bailed out, I think like LG and ZTE said that they're not doing press conferences, but they're still going to have booths. So I don't know what the logic behind that is. So at Mobile World Congress, well, obviously we've got a couple of months still to hopefully see the coronavirus under control, but a lot of people feel that there's a lot of people who I've talked to feel that it's a good possibility that Computex gets postponed or canceled this year. Now, the official word, I'm going to tell you that that Ian Cuttress of AnonTech, which is also part of our parent company, and I know those folks quite well, did a story this week where he actually talked to Teitra, the company the foundation or whatever that runs Computex, and they said that they don't have any plans right now to cancel or postpone it, and they are issuing some kind of guidance for their cycle show, which they're doing, which is in March. But I guess we still have a few months out to see what happens.
Wow.
But I'm concerned. I'm definitely concerned about that. And it could have a very chilling effect on. All you need to do is say have concerns about an outbreak around the manufacturing centers in China, and that could really have a huge effect on the global economy.
Yeah, for sure. There's already
So
concerns that it might delay manufacture of products that have been announced, and that stuff may end up getting delayed already, or things that haven't been announced. There's concern that the new whatever the inexpensive iPhone, the not the C, the other
the
one.
SE,
Yeah, the SE.
yeah, the SE.
That they might delay the announcement of that because they may not be able to manufacture it in time. So yeah,
Yeah,
this has been an interesting thing with a potentially big impact on, like you said, the global economy.
yeah. So obviously, a lot of concern there. But news continues to flow, so hopefully, the wheels of progress continue to flow, because obviously we don't like hearing about anybody getting sick or dying, and we also, don't like hearing about stuff, in a whole industry coming to a halt, or largely to a halt.
True, and we obviously we live within the tech industry, but that doesn't mean that it's limited to us. I'd be interested to see, there's a lot of textiles that happen in China, and fabric is well known for holding on to disease and stuff. It would be interesting to see what happens in the textile space as well. I bet they're going to have trouble there too.
One thing I read, and I'll just leave it with this, is that the virus cannot live outside of a host for more than a few hours. So
That's good to hear.
presumably, if you buy something that was made in China and it's been shipped to you, even there's no way that it could be carrying the virus on a piece of
Okay,
clothing or
that's
a
good.
piece of electronics. I mean, that's what I read somewhere. I mean, maybe I wouldn't take that to the absolute bank, but that
Plus, of course, we're
I read that
early and
somewhere, and I'd like to believe that.
we're also early in learning about
Yeah.
the details of the thing.
Yeah.
So there's always the possibility that they could find out new information. But that at least for now, yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed that that's accurate information, because obviously you and I are going to have our hands on all kinds of products over the next couple of months that are coming from China in a way that most consumers don't end up with. So fingers crossed there.
Yes.
But for now, let's go ahead and get into some of our own news. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new tablet, a laptop, an Xbox One, either S or X, or a whole lot more, Office 365, games for your PC or your Xbox, VR headsets, keyboards, and more, you can find all of them at the Microsoft Store. And we always like to remind people that if you're a current student or military, you always get a discount on almost all products, and you can find all of the deals that are running right now, including saving $150 on an Xbox One X 1 terabyte Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order bundle, and a whole lot more by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So we have talked about this a little bit in the Piltch Point in the past, and this week we got some kind of harder news on it. Obviously, we've been talking about AMD's kind of resurgence over particularly the last year, but really the last 3 generations of processors. They have come from a place where at one point we were like, is AMD even still making processors? And then they put out the Ryzen chips, and holy cow, did they take the industry by storm, making Intel almost look like they're the ones who have stopped making processors, because they're technologically they're farther behind. Even just this week, a benchmark on the new Threadripper 3995X
90X
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 came out above Intel's like double Xeon like crazy chip setup for way less, and that's always been AMD's thing. AMD has always been, a less expensive processor. That's the space they've lived in. And with the Ryzen and Threadripper stuff, they have managed to come from a place where we were like, well, I guess AMD's not doing computers anymore, to having 18.3% of the desktop share and 16.2% of the laptop share, which represents a 2.5% and a 4% overall increase year over year for them. Which, when you take into consideration how short of a time period the Ryzen mobile chips have really been available to manufacturers, to have taken
really surprised.
to have taken 16.2% of the laptop market. Wow.
Yeah, that really says a lot, because particularly in the laptop space is AMD's weak spot. And obviously we're all hoping to see, not that we're rooting for AMD over Intel necessarily, but I think we've been hoping to see better competition from them. And so and I think, and we're all expecting that this year might be the year that they really turn the corner and have processors that are significantly on par with or better than Intel's best. Because what we've seen in prior years with the Ryzen Mobile was, it's getting better. It's getting better. It's still not quite as good. The battery life's not quite as good.
Right.
Integrated graphics is always a little better on AMD. But if you're buying a system with integrated graphics, maybe you don't care that much, that you would prefer better battery life and better performance
Sure.
overall. So, that they've managed this 16.2, and also consider that laptop manufacturers are much more conservative about what chip they'll use than desktop.
Yeah.
So yeah, that means that they can go a lot higher, because they haven't really penetrated most segments of the market. I mean, where's the great AMD, lightweight ultrabook?
Right.
There isn't. Where's the great AMD CPU powered gaming laptop? There's a couple that have it. They're not in the top tier.
Right.
What my understanding is that there were, the couple of AMD powered gaming laptops that came out in 2019, a lot of it was really about cost, and
Right.
the manufacturers saying like, okay, we have to hit a particular price point, and we can shave a few dollars off by going with an AMD processor,
Right.
even if they also went with NVIDIA graphics. So, yeah, it's amazing that they're getting that they've done so well in 2019 with this, because I think we're expecting much more from them in 2020. And then on the desktop side, it's not as much of a surprise, because the Ryzen 3000 series came out. That's been absolutely fantastically reviewed. Ryzen 2000 series was very well thought of, and so was actually original Ryzen. So they're into the third generation now of a successful platform.
Right.
Something that people on desktop want. People who build desktops want it. Now, they're not always cheaper than Intel.
True.
they are a lot of times cheaper than Intel, or they give you more cores for the same price. But if you want a high-end Ryzen chip, it's not cheap
Right.
um, by
Or
any
God
stretch of
forbid
the
you want a
imagination.
Threadripper.
Right. Yeah. Well, you shouldn't expect the Threadripper to be cheap, but they might be cheap compared to a Xeon, though. But
Sure.
uh, I mean, also the motherboards are not cheap at all. I mean, you're talking about spending, if you're building a computer yourself, and if you're not building a computer yourself, it's going into the cost of the computer that you bought. You're talking about, for a Threadripper motherboard is probably usually like $400 or $500
Yeah.
at the least, just for the motherboard. And with a Ryzen 3000 series, depending on what chipset you want in your motherboard, you could end up paying quite a bit, especially if you want the X570 chipset, which is the latest and greatest. And the reason why you would want that, for those who aren't building PCs or familiar with all that, is just that it uses faster processors. I mean, faster SSDs. So you can actually get you can actually get PCIe 4 connectivity, and that's something AMD has. It's also letting it be dominant.
Right. Yeah. So when you're thinking about building a non-server grade but high data usage machine, PCIe 4 only supported in that infrastructure. So AMD is the way to go there. So it's definitely good to see, like you said, the increase in their market share is a good thing. Yes, sure. If you own stock in the company, their stock is up almost 100%. 2 years over, this year over 2 years ago. But from an industry standpoint, challenging Intel, this is proof that Intel needs to be challenged, because it is proof that they have let things slide, because with very little work, AMD has managed to take a chunk out of the market share for Intel. Because when you take into the processor space is a zero sum game, right? It's if AMD's market share increases, it's because Intel's decreased. It's not there's not some other magic thing. And sure, ARM processors account for 0.1% of machines. Who cares? So for AMD to go up, Intel has to go down, and the only thing that can do is puff Intel up, hopefully, so that we'll have some actual competition.
The other thing is AMD. I mean, you're only purely talking the zero sum game in PCs, but
Right.
they're also selling their graphics and I think their processors into console.
Mm-hmm.
And so, new consoles coming out, both powered by AMD.
Yep.
That's that's going to drive a lot for them.
For sure. Granted, the current Xbox One generation was also AMD, so it won't be a new market for them. But there's a lot of sales expected.
But there'll be sales because there's a new platform.
Right. There's a lot of sales on the Series X to people who may not have been an Xbox One person, because the Series X has all kinds of promises that we'll see about later in the year. But there's the potential that people who aren't traditional Xbox people might want a Series X. So that might help too. But it's been, like you said, sure, laptop companies have been a little hesitant to go all in on AMD, but they have seen new partners emerge. Microsoft put out Surface products with custom Ryzen processors, and interestingly, based on the latest beta of Mac OS, it appears that Apple might officially support AMD processors in their hardware as well, which would be a big deal for them. They switched from their weird like hybrid Motorola processors to Intel procs. I think it may not have even been a full decade ago, which was a big deal. And there was rumor that they were looking at building their own ARM processor for the Macs, but that would have been the same challenge that was going from the Motorola processors to the Intels, that a lot of software wouldn't work and a lot of hardware wouldn't work, and it would make a lot of people unhappy. But adding AMD to the lineup again puts pressure on Intel to start doing things again without the problem of nothing ever working again, which was going from PowerPC to Intel, kind of nothing worked anymore, and this wouldn't be that. But it also kind of indicates that Apple might be serious about computers again, which they haven't been for a while, as the tablet market is shrinking again, and PC sales are on the rise for both Apple and Windows computers. This might be a sign that Apple's serious about it and willing to go. They've been using AMD video cards for a while in Mac machines. It's not surprising to go with the processors too. So 2020 could be a big year for AMD. Be interesting to see exactly what comes of this over the next 12 months. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. If you want to keep your browsing history private online, a VPN is a great way of doing that. And PureVPN right now, if you go with a short-term contract, oftentimes we've been talking about long-term pricing. If you do a 2-year right now, you can actually get it for $3.33 a month, which for 2 years is a really great deal. And what it does is it gives you the ability to keep your browsing history private from both your ISP and Facebook, Google, those guys. But it also gives you the ability to report different locations. So if you want to, from say Canada, watch a show here in the US, you can use that on the VPN. And to find out all about that, you can go to piltchpoint.live/purevpn. So we're actually doing something a little different tonight, because the Piltch Point and our Extra Life segment are kind of together, because Avram and I are both kind of really into the topic of GeForce Now, which officially came out this week.
Yes.
And we're very excited about it. So obviously I have used it in the past, and I know you have used it in the now. So what have your experiences been?
I've used GeForce Now and then. So let's take a step back for anyone in our audience who is not familiar with GeForce Now, as a lot of people, even very tech savvy people, have not been. So we all know about streaming services, game streaming, actually cloud gaming, we should call game streaming, not to be confused with people streaming their gaming.
Right. We're not talking Twitch and Mixer. We're talking things like Project xCloud and services like that.
So this has been tried several times over the years. The concept is a good one, which is your computer is not good enough to play PC games, or to play the latest PC games, or to play them at the highest settings. So why don't we let you basically use a remote computer to play your game, and then you have, as long as you have a good internet connection, you can have an ancient, really crappy computer, or even use something that's not a computer, like a phone or a tablet, to play high-end PC games remotely. So it's been tried many times, and it's being tried again. We know all about Google Stadia trying it and not coming out so far not being so impressive. We know Microsoft is working on this with Project xCloud. There used to be services like one called OnLive that did this, and NVIDIA has quietly been testing in a public beta its own service called GeForce Now for since 2017. So they've actually it's been around if you got into the public beta, which they said I think about 300,000 people did. Um, and I got access to it last spring. You what you got the opportunity to do is play one of I think it supports over 1,000 games, and you are playing them on a remote computer that has a pretty a pretty decent NVIDIA graphics card. They won't tell you what. Now it's you're not while it's really clear that you're on a PC when you do it, you're on a computer somewhere when you do it. There's not like a Windows desktop or something for you. You have to you what you do is you have an NVIDIA GeForce Now app on your computer or your phone or even an NVIDIA Shield TV set-top box, and then you use that to launch the game of choice, and it will ask you for a login in Steam or Epic Game Launcher or whatever the launcher is for that particular game, and you have to own that game already. So you if you don't already have a Steam account, you don't already have games on Steam, you got to go out and buy some. Or some of the games like Fortnite are free to play, so you don't have to buy them. You just have to, I don't know, I guess have your account and register for them. Um, so now this week, GeForce Now is finally out of beta. It's it was not in beta quite as long as Gmail, but 3+ years, 3 years is a long time. Uh, and there are going to be there are two tiers of it. There is a free tier which you pay nothing, and you can only play your game for an hour at a time, uh, and then you get kicked out. And then there's the
And you
what they
also
call the
have
founders.
your access to the service is kind of like a standard access. So if it's really busy, your login might take a little while.
Yeah, so that's important to note because I will get to that in 1 second because that goes to the experience part of it that I have had and you have had. Uh, then you could pay $4.99 a month for it to be in the founders tier, and for that you get priority access. You get 6-hour sessions, and you can use ray tracing games that use RTX, NVIDIA RTX. And with the Founders Edition, you get 90 days free. So basically, there's no reason why there's no reason not to be in the Founders program right now because you can always cancel it after 90 days. But I guess you better remember to do that. Um, it's not clear to me. One thing that's not clear to me is if they automatically made everybody who was in the beta group free, or they made them founders. Um, I'm not sure because I'm pressed. They upgraded me to founder so I could try it a couple of days previously. But I will tell you that my experience with it has been very mixed. So on the one hand, if you can get a good connection, you can play some pretty neat games. Uh, but but it is not so easy to get a good connection, even if you have good internet. So I have had this issue at home and at work. NVIDIA says that you need 15 megabit per second internet speed. That's not much, to be honest. That's not much for someone who has decent home internet these days. I mean, a lot of services are minimum 75, um, and that's what I have at home is 75, and at work, we have even more. But I kept getting messages at both places over the course of a lot of time saying your internet connection is spotty. and it would uh, take a long time to let me in. I would occasionally get kicked out, and I would get and it would be very and I would get images that were kind of blurry. Now, I've been using this thing on and off when it was in the beta period for about, for several months, and it had good days and bad, which leads me to say that I don't know. I mean, your mileage may vary. It may be that just the places I've tried it don't have as good internet as I think as they appear to. Maybe you'll have maybe your mileage will vary and be better. Um, or maybe it's something on the server end. My but if you can get a good connection to it, it's just like playing on a high-end gaming PC. Um, the one thing that is problematic is that apparently it lost some of the game support. So when it was in beta, there were some games that were available, like the Tomb Raider games, that were subsequently removed uh, before it went to live, presumably because of some kind of licensing issues.
Okay.
What was your experience like trying it?
So my experience was both similar and different. Obviously, depending on the device I was using, because my intention was to try and use it in as many places as possible. Sometimes I had no connection issues, and sometimes I had massive connection issues. Interestingly, the place I had the most problems with connectivity was on the Mac. Even hardwired to a 400 megabit connection over a gigabit LAN cable, I still had connectivity issues. My Windows machines, when hardwired, were mostly fine. The Surface Book and the first gen Surface Pro both choked on Wi-Fi a little bit. Interestingly, my Android device, I never had connectivity issues on when on Wi-Fi, but obviously on cellular it choked pretty good. But
Right.
I was surprised by that.
I mean, I've primarily been using it on Wi-Fi with my PC, so it could be that. But I mean, the expectation is that you should be able to get 15 megabit on Wi-Fi. But uh, I previously used it on the NVIDIA Shield TV using Ethernet, and I actually had a lot of issues. Although it wasn't the latest Shield, I was previously had a bunch of issues with it over Ethernet on um, on NVIDIA's own hardware, the Shield TV, which was surprising. I've talked to NVIDIA about these things, and they say that shouldn't happen. So, I mean, we are actually going to have somebody do a more long-term test of it to see how reliable it is over time. Now that it is launched,
Mm-hmm.
and be more scientific about going to different locations to try for an article on Tom's Hardware. Uh, I think overall, though, it is the by far the best, the best service out there if you can get the good connection to it. I'm a little concerned about the fact that some titles, some important titles, aren't available on it, particularly because you're the one who has to pay for it. So it's not like it's no charity. I mean, you are when you pay for a GeForce Now, you're not paying for the games.
Right.
You're just paying basically to rent a computer on the other end.
Virtual infrastructure.
Um, yeah. So I think that because now I had discussions, and I'm curious what you think of this with my coworkers, and they really feel like this isn't going to do well in terms of subscribers because the mindset of someone who already owns these games is that they probably already have a pretty decent gaming PC, and how much are they really going to be interested um, in having this service if they already have a decent gaming PC. I mean, you could come up with an argument where they want to play it on their laptop and they have a good desktop at home. So that's a scenario. But so they, and then the other thing is, okay, if I'm not already into PC gaming, maybe I'm going to get it. Maybe I'm getting into console gaming instead. So is there a huge enough niche of people who don't have a good gaming PC but want to do PC gaming? Um, I think it's a possibility because there's definitely a lot more you can do on a PC uh, than on console. So it's possible, but I think the fact that you have to go out and buy your own games and there's not really a follow through with it. It's not like, oh, here I launched my GeForce Now app and then there's a store for GeForce Now that I can go into. It's oh, you want a game, go to Steam.
Hmm.
Uh, then come back and use GeForce Now to log into Steam. So I think to get this really to be a successful model, the company that does it, I think will probably be a company like Amazon or Microsoft or Google, and they will have to tie in cloud gaming to a library, or at least to making it really easy to and seamless to buy the games.
Yeah, and I I like this idea. I like the because the number one complaint with Stadia has been the fact that even if you already own the game, you have to buy it again for Stadia, which makes that a much less appealing concept. But like you said over here, there's no like integrated experience. Yes, it's nice that if you own some games on Steam and some on Epic and some on Uplay or BattleNet, you can integrate them all into one UI. Yes, that's nice, but I can't actually do things through it. I have to go to those and then come back. And so I'm with you, but I think XCloud is the one that's gonna end up taking the prize because they've already got the catalog. I've already got my game catalog. Microsoft already knows what it is. I've got it for both PC and for Xbox One and 360. I've got hundreds of games in my thing, and I can push from my own hardware on the Series X. I'll be able to push from my own hardware out, or from virtual hardware out. There's lots of options. It's all going to have that integrated Xbox gaming store. I think xCloud in the end will be the one that manages to do it because of that integrated everything. The marketplace, the
Yeah,
infrastructure, the whole thing. But I think this is more closely aligned with what people had hoped that Stadia would have been, and wasn't. The conversation that I'm seeing online is definitely surrounded by the idea that I don't have to rebuy games. If I want to play it on my PC, on my gaming PC without all the streaming stuff, I have to buy it on Steam. And if I want to play it through Stadia, I also have to buy it on Google. And people have not been down for that. But here, if you want to play it on your big PC, you buy it on Steam. And if you want to play it on your Android device out in the wild, hey, you're already on it. So, I think this is closer to what people were looking for with what they'd hoped for Stadia, but I think the structure around xCloud is going to be the one that ends up taking the cake.
yeah. I have to say though, I always have mixed feelings about these services, about cloud gaming services, because they're obviously, if they work well, a good thing for consumers. They allow access you to play high end stuff, high end games without high end hardware. But they also, if they work too well, and this I'm just going to tell you, I got a vested interest here. If they work too well, people wouldn't want to buy, wouldn't need to buy good hardware for the home again, because there's, oh yeah, I'll just use this really crappy computer to play to play my games because they're all in the cloud. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't think we're very so I'm somewhat heartened that it doesn't work fantastically well, because if we ever got to the point where your computer could just be a dumb terminal and get like ray traced really good quality uh gaming experience over the internet, it would take some of the fun out of owning your own hardware, building your own hardware, things like that. But we've been hearing about computers are going to become dumb clients, dumb terminals for years, and it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
But kudos to Nvidia for actually doing things the way that PC gamers want it.
Hmm.
uh, I think there's, I think they just need to make sure that the connectivity is there, particularly for people who are founders, and the games are there.
True. Yeah, for sure. And in all reality, the idea that you're essentially leasing a computer offsite and using a fancy remote desktop protocol client to interact with it theoretically means that NVIDIA doesn't have to do licensing on the games, which makes it an interesting scenario. They might be obviously working with game manufacturers to make sure things work well and things like that, but I can put a
But it seems that they do,
right.
because there were a number of games that were on it that subsequently, which they didn't say officially why it happened, that subsequently left the service, like the Tomb Raider games.
Hmm.
And the rumor going around, nobody really knows, but the spec for sure, but the speculation is some of these games have exclusivity deals with Google, and therefore they can't be on GeForce Now, which makes no sense, because they're not,
Uh-huh.
all that GeForce Now is doing is renting you the computer, right?
Right, right. With remote desktop. It's
Yeah.
anyway. But it does mean that there's the potential for small publishers, for indie publishers to be able to get in on this in a way that they could never get into Stadia. They could never get, possibly, depending on how xCloud works, may or may not be able to get into something like that, but could never get into Stadia. So you might see, little titles like the ones that my team have been doing reviews on. My Beautiful Paper Smile and Macrosis, the weird little rabbit game that I played. A King's Quest. These games from small publishers. You might actually see them with support on this platform in a way that you never would have seen support on a proper license type situation. So it'll definitely be interesting to see where this goes over the next couple of months to the next couple of years, as they try to get there before, who did we talked a couple months ago. EA has got their own system that they're working on. Obviously Google's got theirs. We know Microsoft's got xCloud coming soon, probably to coincide with the launch of the Series X this holiday. We've got a lot of these things coming, and for NVIDIA, getting out there first might be the best decision they've made. So, did you say that you guys, that you've already got content out there on this?
Yes. So we have an article about it that I put up last week, and we are also doing a long-term test to see how it performs over time.
That's a great idea. I
So
look
if you
forward
want to
to
see the
seeing that.
article, go to tomshardware.com. But we will have something more definitive within a few weeks.
Very cool. Well, I look forward to seeing that like long-term test content, because obviously our little kind of testing it in beta on a couple of devices isn't quite the same as being able to take a group of things and go to a place and test a thing, and then take them all to another place and test having a a structure, as opposed to you and I going, hey, I want to play this game right now. This is the computer I have. Let's see if it works. Yeah. That's not quite the same thing. So I definitely look forward to that. And as always, I look forward to what we talk about next week. This week's news from the tubes and F5 Live is proudly powered by RiffTrax. Make fun of movies, or let these guys do it for you, because that's what they do. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities like The Shape of Things to Come. The way it works is for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3, play it along with your Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, DVD, wherever you happen to have the movie, and laugh. From time to time, they do live events. Those oftentimes find their way over to the site as well, sometimes with full video, so you don't have to do the syncing yourself or find the movie yourself. They also have short films, industry films, those weird things that you used to watch in elementary school, and they make those things wonderfully funny. You can find out about all of the feature films, the short films, and the Kid's Guide to the Internet, which is, I believe, the short that the meme of the kid with doing the thumbs up comes from. You can find all of that by going to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. Oh my goodness. I definitely think that's where that meme comes from, which makes me happy. Anyway, so obviously we've talked a number of times about facial recognition, in particular when it comes to government use of facial recognition. We talked on the show maybe 6 months ago about New York putting it in schools, which was pretty terrifying, and was put down pretty quick because obviously people didn't like it. The idea of the government, particularly scanning children for facial recognition, is a bizarre situation, but kind of the face of what's going on with the government using facial recognition has definitely been from a little startup that just a couple of months ago nobody outside of law enforcement had ever heard of. But now seemingly everybody knows. It's called Clearview AI, and they have produced a platform for law enforcement to be able to essentially put in a photo, I can't remember what they call it. A probe image. That's it. They put in a probe image or multiple, and they get back identities of the people in it. This has been massively polarizing, for obvious reasons. The privacy concerns alone, the idea of a database of people, especially when you take into consideration that Clearview has a policy where they keep the probe images forever. So these victims' photos get added into the AI in a way that's uncomfortable. But on the other side, law enforcement has been saying that it's the greatest technology that has ever been produced for law enforcement. There's a group, I believe it was in Iowa. No, it wasn't in Iowa. Maybe it was Illinois or something. That has found. Yeah, this is killing me. Indiana. Indiana has been using it for identifying victims in child exploitation content. so that they can inform the victims that the perpetrator has been caught, ask for victim statements, things like that. And so that brings us back once again to the same topic of privacy and security versus the topic that law enforcement keeps using, child exploitation. We talk about it when it comes to the government saying encryption's terrible. And here we're having the same conversation with the government going, facial recognition is fantastic. And it's not just the public who's unhappy with it. Tech companies don't like it either because the massive database of faces that they have come from scraping data from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the like. So all kinds of privacy things coming up here. Obviously, it's a big topic, Avram, but where are you on this?
So I just wanted to point out that you said that the school, did you just say that the school was not, it didn't succeed in the school? Because an article just went up on the New York Times this past week by my friend Davey Alba about the fact that Lockport School turned it on in January. They passed the court challenges.
Oh, did they?
And now they are doing, yes, and now they are doing it at school.
Okay, because they had done it. They had done it in June, and an injunction made them stop. And I hadn't heard that the case had gone all the way through. So it went through, and the school district won.
Yes, and they've been doing it for a few weeks now. My former colleague Davey Alba, who now works for the New York Times and is going to win a Pulitzer someday soon because she is a fantastic reporter on issues like facial recognition. Did a story about what's going on in the Lockport High School now.
Lockport was specifically the school we talked about in June.
Yes, yeah, it's the same one.
Yeah.
So they were determined, and they haven't stopped. So what's a little bit messed up in reading her story about it is that they really are I think they said that they can't use it on the children, but they can use it on anyone else who comes in, or and what's weird is they say, just as you're talking about child exploitation being the excuse in a lot of cases, the school shootings is the school district's excuse.
Yeah.
But when you hear about why they think this is going to prevent school shootings, it doesn't make sense. So what they said is that it's looking for the faces of a particular group of people that they consider to be dangerous. So it's not looking for anybody. It's only, okay, if someone is a registered sex offender in the area, they might be on the blacklist.
Sure.
If somebody is a former employee of the school that was fired or something like that, they might be on the list. But if you're not known to them, then it's not going to catch you. And the other thing is, some of the things that they were saying are, oh, well, what happens if someone goes through the side door? Well, first of all, it seems to me like your number one problem is that they're counting on not locking their door. Like, you can't, if you recognize someone's face and they're a school shooter, by the time you're already in the school recognizing their face on the camera and are sending somebody to act to stop them,
it's too late.
It's too late. So that's ludicrous reasoning, and
which suggests that it's not the real reasoning.
Well, what is the real reasoning if it's not to just, I don't know, make money for somebody or something? Because it doesn't. it doesn't make a lot. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And we also know that facial recognition isn't really that accurate.
Right.
I mean, it's and so you're people are plowing ahead with this technology without really worrying about the accuracy of
Mm-hmm.
it, whether it's going to flag the wrong people. Uh, Granted, I think what they said is that if somebody looks like a person of interest to facial recognition, then they'll have a human look at it before they
Act.
dispatch security to deal with this person. So, so A, you can't trust it enough. B, um, like by the time it's detected someone, a human being has verified that this is a problem, and you've sent the security guard to them. Uh, it's probably
Way too
way
late.
if they were really going to do something bad, it's probably way too late. Um, so, but I think in general, I'm very concerned about facial recognition being used for anything because it's not 100% accurate. Um,
Far from.
and it does lead to a lot of problems with people, and it's been shown that facial recognition is not equally accurate across racial groups. It can be uh, it can be quite inaccurate. And now there's
Yeah.
a new thing apparently. Some airlines are now having you use facial recognition to get your boarding pass.
Uh-oh.
They did you hear about that?
No, that's
I think
terrible.
that I think that it is an option. Whereas like you get to the kiosk and you could put in your credit card or put in your traveler number, and but I believe it was Delta or something that is now doing that, at least at some machines, where you show up and one option is to do facial recognition. Where's the face that they're even matching it against?
Right.
Is it the one on your driver's license? Because that wouldn't work very well for me. My driver's license pictures are really old. You know, they don't even. I don't even think it's really transparent, like where they're getting the data to match your face against.
Apparently,
So
JetBlue is using facial recognition somewhere. They were an early adopter of the tech. Obviously, I went and started doing searches on it. Yeah, that's
yeah,
uncomfortable. I don't like that. And the Homeland
I don't
Security's
like
been using
any of
it
it.
in a lot of places, which isn't better. Because again, what are they matching against? What does the database look like? What technology are they using? Because we know that a lot of these technologies, having tested them just as a developer, I like to do things like that. I've used the one from Watson. Yikes. I've I've used the one from AWS. Double yikes. They're just none of them are great. The only one I've seen come even close, ironically, is Facebook, who doesn't like the Clearview AI, which is unbelievably ironic. Facebook's has been the closest I've seen, but they don't make that one public. They just use it internally to, hey, we think your friend so and so might be in this photo with you. Is that true? And even then, it's not great tech, and potentially will never be great tech because data points change on a face for all kinds of reasons. It's obviously there's the clear ones, right? There's palsy, there's a stroke, there's things like that that have an immediate and distinct data point change, but it I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly not being transparent about how well it works. And let's keep in mind that the facial recognition that is for unlocking your phone or unlocking your Windows Hello login uh, is understandably held to a much lower standard than one which involves like being tackled by the police, right? I mean, the facial. I mean, honestly, I think that the ones for your phone and for your computer are made to be have a little bit lower degree of confidence because look, we just want people to be able to log in and maybe they're not expecting someone who looks like you to try to get in. But I
During one
mean,
of our CES interviews, somebody said 80% confidence or something like that, which is incredibly low. That's that's the reason why phones will unlock for twins and photos and video and things like that, is because that's a really low level of confidence.
yeah. So they would be better off fingerprint scanning everybody at the than doing. Not that I'm saying that's great, but at least my big problem with it isn't necessarily like it's definitely I'm concerned about privacy, but most importantly is I think most important is accuracy. Like I don't want people getting pulled over. I don't want to be pulled over. I don't think anybody wants to be pulled over, told you can't fly or you're dangerous or whatever because the system misidentifies your face.
Yeah.
One of the things in the story about Lockheed School is that Lockport School, Lockheed School, is that apparently it sends a message out to the police, and if the police can't reach anyone at the school to say that there's not a problem, they'll treat it as a quote unquote live situation and start deploying the SWAT team or whatever um, measure that they would take if they think there could be an active shooter. So, like, you could see the potential here for somebody to get killed.
Oh, absolutely. That is essentially the school district swatting themselves.
Yes.
That's a terrible idea. Oh my gosh. That's that's even worse than what I thought. Oh no. Yeah, that's going to end up creating a dangerous situation for students and faculty. Well, obviously, as your friend says on Twitter, facial recognition is coming for all of us, and it doesn't seem like there's any stopping it because law enforcement, who doesn't seem to understand it, loves it. So we have to hope that the privacy organizations are able to get somewhere before our worst case scenario that we just pitched actually happens. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. You know you get free shipping, but you may not know that you get a whole lot more than that. You get Amazon Prime Music, which gives you several million tracks available to stream for free as part of your subscription. You get Amazon Prime Video, which gives you TV, movies, documentaries, both original content and licensed content available, again, for free as part of your subscription. And my favorite, Twitch Prime, which gives you one free subscription that you can use to financially help the content creator of your choice. You can use that to subscribe to PLUGHITZ Live and help us create new content, or any other content creator that you want, and you get free games. Oh my goodness, how can you not love free games? I use them all the time. So we've put together a little page to help you know some of our favorite benefits. Plus, if you're not already a subscriber, you can get 30 days for free to find out if it's for you. And you can get all of that by going to f5live.tv/prime. I'm going to do it to you guys again. We're going to talk about another streaming video service. All right. So a couple months ago, we talked about the weirdness that is the relationship between Viacom and CBS. The fact that several times they've been one company, several times they've been two companies. Once again, they are back to one. And they have decided that they want to create a streaming service that will bring all of the ViacomCBS content under one roof. Okay, that I'm fine with in theory, because ViacomCBS has CBS All Access, Showtime Now, or whatever it's called, MTV, VH1, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon. All these have their own streaming platforms. The idea of being able to, because we've been talking about consumer fatigue for a long time on streaming content, the idea of bringing all of that together under one roof, for me, is a great idea in theory. However, great ideas seem to be a hit or miss thing over at the new ViacomCBS, because this will not replace all of the existing services. It will be in addition to. So, in addition to CBS All Access, Showtime Now, Comedy Central, MTV, and all of the streaming apps for the individual networks, there will also be some mythical new ViacomCBS branded overarching thing that will also have the content. So, just like Comcast, they have decided to compete with themselves. Is this not the opposite of what would be ideal, Avram? I can't hear you. Your mic seems to be off, buddy. Nope, still got nothing from you. Did we turn off over here? No. I don't have anything from you.
No?
Oh, now I do.
Oh, okay. That's weird.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Maybe
Anyway.
it's our temporary freeze. So yeah, well, companies come out with different products that are somewhat similar all the time. So I don't think that's necessarily a problem. It's just that there's too many streaming services right now.
Right.
Maybe we should get to a point where we're just paying for the program that we want. I don't know if people really want to do that, because there's some shows I've seen on Netflix where I'm like, I don't think I would have paid just to see that.
Yeah.
But it's weird because there's just too many different services where people are subscribing just to see one or two things. One thing I do like is the way that Prime Video allows you to add and remove channels.
Yeah.
So I recently signed up for CBS All Access again because I wanted to watch Picard. And I also wanted to watch, my wife and I had totally not signed up again last year when we wanted to see Discovery Season 2. So, but rather than sign up and have to go in and cancel my credit card and hope that it gets canceled at the right time, now I just know, okay, I can turn on and off that channel in Prime Video, and it gets charged to me by Amazon. So I actually think what Amazon is doing there is very consumer friendly, because at least you don't have to have all of these separate charges from all of these separate companies that you have to go on and off of.
Yeah.
I think that's the issue. Yeah, it would be nice to have an overall service that gave you more different things. Ultimately, these things are becoming more and more like cable, right? It's like you try to get away from cable, but instead you have basically the equivalent of cable. Do you want this package or do you not?
Except that you get to a la carte a little bit.
Package, yes. But even with cable, there are things like, oh, do you want HBO,
Right.
or do you want Cinemax, or do you want Showtime, or do you want Stars? Uh, and in some places, you have a choice of whether or not you have, and there are different package channels too. Like the most basic one on cable only gives you like 100 channels, and you might have to pay for more just because, oh, hey, you want Cartoon Network. That's like, you got to pay to get 100 other channels just to get the one extra one that you wanted.
Right.
And that could be like this, where you wanted to watch one show, but you have to but to do it, you got to get a whole streaming service.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, CBS All Access has been a great example of that for us because, there's the Star Trek shows. That's kind of about it for me. Which,
I think it is for most people. How many young Sheldon fans are there really?
Right, exactly. And that's on TV anyway, so you can probably get that on either your DVR or your on demand from your existing cable.
I thought that was exclusive for a while. Was that not exclusive for a while? Exclusive to CBS All Access for a while?
I think it premiered on All Access, but it came to broadcast when the original series was canceled. I think I think they were only running one of them. So when Big Bang went away,
I'll take pride in not knowing what goes on with Big Bang Theory because I'm offended by that show.
Me too. But yeah, so this will be interesting. There's the CBS All Access originals, which are theoretically CBS All Access licensed. It'll be interesting to see if those are available on this new, bigger, overarching service. I imagine they will be, but who knows? It also means that all of Star Trek will be under one banner, not just TV and movies that theoretically were owned by different people. Paramount versus CBS. Paramount and CBS are now together, and so they technically fall under one banner again for the first time in a while. So I imagine you'll be able to watch all of Star Trek in one place. But I don't know. If all of this stuff is already out there and most of it doesn't require signing up, MTV, VH1, Comedy Central, if you've got a cable subscription, you've already got all those things. So I don't know. If the idea isn't consolidation, I don't know what the purpose of this one is. So will it work? Who knows? And in the grand scheme of all of the many, many services that are out there, I don't know if I care. So, but it's coming. Hooray. Well, that is our show. Thank you for those of you who joined us live. If you didn't, that is okay. In the future, if you'd like to, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, f5live.tv/join us. You can join us live, chat with us in the studio, talk about what you like, what you don't like, what topics annoy you, like facial recognition does for us. If you can't join us live, that's okay. You can always go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe and see all the different ways that you can subscribe to F5 Live, the Piltch Point, and a whole lot more. Next week, I think we're going to have a cool announcement to bring you about another way that you can listen as well. And although tonight may not have been a show and tell, if you are listening to the audio and would like to watch the show as well, you can always do that at f5live.tv. And I think with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next time. Ciao.